The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Game junkie, Gerard Campbell.
3, 2, 1, go, go, go!
Boost is armed and ready.
What you're listening to there is the crazy lunacy of Hydro Thunder Hurricane, which is a new game out on the Xbox 360 and the Xbox Live Arcades as part of the Winter of Arcades. Joining us to talk with us about it and to give us his thoughts, it is Gerard Campbell, game junkie at stuff.co.nz. G'day there, Gerard.
G'day, Wammo. How are you today?
I'm well. This looks like a game that has been taken straight out of, literally, of the old arcade, put the $2 into the machine kind of style game.
That's right. It's probably the games that we were brought up on, wasn't it? You know, I remember as a kid, you know, waiting for the bus after school, going to the Spacey's parlour and doing that sort of thing. And you're right, it's got that arcade feel to it, which is really good. You know, I mean, Hydro Thunder Hurricane, it's sort of a sequel to, I think it was Capcom had an arcade game called Hydro Thunder Racing.
Yeah.
And so this is the sort of a modernised version of it for the Xbox 360. And it's, you know, it sort of reminds me of, it's sort of one of those games like, you know, we had an arcade game last year called Trials HD. And this is along the same sort of vein that it seems to be one of those games that, you know, you say to yourself, okay, I'll do one more track, you know, and then I'll call it quits and then I'll do something else. But, you know, you actually, next thing you realise you've played you've raced 5 times and you've, you know, picked up that sort of thing. And, you know, it's really simple. I mean, the premise is extremely simple. I mean, basically it's racing from A to B, but it's, you know, for most of the time, but, you know, you can pick up power-ups which give you sort of nitrous and boost and that sort of thing, and you've got to avoid obstacles and all those sorts of things. And something that I really liked, and I think we've spoken about before too, is that the water physics are really well done, incredibly well done.
So it is set, like every track is it's a water race, essentially.
Yeah. It's all water themed, isn't it? But you know, each of the tracks, you know, you've got sort of, I guess, amateur, pro, and expert tracks, you know, and a variety of sort of hydroplane boats, I guess, that you can, you know, race. Each handles differently, and each has different characteristics, and you know, and the tracks are really inventively done. You know, there's like a Babylonian temple, and there's a really one I thought was cool was a Norse themed one, you know, and you've got unmanned Viking boats chasing you down these sort of icy Arctic seas, and statues of gods with big axes swinging around the place, and you know, and you know, they're the straight races. But of course, then there's several modes. There's like a timed mode where you've got to, you know, complete tracks on a certain time, and then there's also sort of these ring modes where you've got to go through rings, and the gauntlet modes, which, you know, suddenly you find that there's stacks of explosive barrels floating in the water as you're racing, so you've got to avoid all those. So there's a huge amount of you know, variety and sort of modes to play with, and you know, it's
so you're not only racing the computer, the AI, the artificial intelligence, but you're also racing friends as well.
Yeah, you are. You know, something that I thought was good about this one, and it was also something that Trials HD did, is that it's got a you know, the friends leaderboard will pop up and it will show, you know, Wammo got such and such, you know, he did this time. So it actually gives you a bit of incentive to think, oh, you know, I'll just have another go so I can sort of beat my friends. And even, you know, if it's for a day or two, you know, you can have bragging rights that you're at the top of the leaderboard, even if it's by 0.2 of a second or something, you know. Yeah. And it sort of has that, you know, and I think that's a good thing about a lot of these arcade games, is that they're simple concepts, but they have quite addictive properties to them, that, you know, they're simple enough that you don't have to learn a whole complex control scheme. You know, controls are simple as in this one, you know, it's basically your triggers to accelerate and you've got a boost button and then you steer. But perhaps the only thing that sort of I thought was a bit of a negative was that I think it's 1,200 Microsoft points, which I think sort of works out about $20 or something, you know, I guess it give or take. But I perhaps thought that might have been a wee bit steep for this one. You know, considering that like Limbo came out on Xbox, the Winter of Arcade, a couple of weeks ago, and it's the same price. And I thought that that was a lot more worth it because it was a lot more innovative and a lot more atmospheric. So, perhaps the only niggle about this one could be the price, and it seems to be a lot of points for what is essentially a really simple arcade one that you could grow tired of after a couple of weeks or something.
And saying that, though, I mean, it is that simplicity that may keep you hooked in, and you might end up playing it for quite a long time. You might put it down for a few weeks and then come back to it, just for that nature of you want to beat your friends' time, or you do want to get online and play that multiplayer aspect and play people around the world.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think the appeal of it is the type of game that you can actually, if you've got 10 minutes spare, you can kick it in and you can have a couple of races. You don't have to, devote 2 or 3 hours to it at a stretch to actually progress any further. The races are, some of the races might be only 2 to 3 minutes long. So if you've got a few minutes to sort of play, it's a nice addictive little title that's going to fill in some little time gaps. And you're right, that carrot is, getting better scores and doing faster times and beating your friends, isn't it? So I mean,
and I think people will really love the physics. I know you just touched on the physics earlier, but the water physics, you do feel like the water. It's not a hard surface; it is soft, and the look of it. They've done it very, very well. It feels like water. It feels like you are racing on water, and I think that's quite essential to the game. Yeah,
well, I think it's good because as you said, the waves. The waves are oscillating and moving around. One of the levels, I think, there's actually, when you had a power-up, you can actually activate a wave machine, so that's going to create more waves, and your boat actually rocks around, and it does affect your handling. So, I mean, that is extremely well done that it does do that. So, I mean, I think they've nailed this one on the head, really, in terms of, creating a nice little atmosphere for it. And, the Winter of Arcade, which Xbox started last year, I mean, it's got some really good titles, and I think it's a really good initiative because there's some really high quality stuff coming out, and it's for a handful of dollars, really, when compared to what you pay for a full price game.
Cool. Thanks very much, Gerard. I'll see you on the racetrack.
You will. Thanks, Wammo.
Game Junkie NZ, of course, on Twitter, and check out his blog at